Supreme Court striking down affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action, something we've all been hearing about throughout the years. Affirmative action refers to a policy aimed at increasing workplace and educational opportunities for people who are underrepresented in our society. Cool. Sounds like a great idea, sounds nice and loving, but is it really? In theory, maybe, but the Supreme Court and countless Americans think otherwise. While some people see affirmative action as countering discrimination, others see affirmative action as systemic racism. Because at the end of the day, we have an organization that is providing or denying access to people based on the color of their skin. And I'll let you decide if that's racist or not. This video is featuring my friend Gen. He's an amazing content creator that turns street interviews into investigative journalism, so definitely give him a subscribe. But I want him in this video because, well, he's Asian. And with Black people and Asians being at the forefront of these conversations regarding affirmative action, I thought it'd be great for you all to get the two varying perspectives on this issue. While working on this video, I thought back to my own college experience and the crappy desk that I had in my dorm room. I always wanted one of those dope standing desks that I would always see in different YouTube videos, and now I have one thanks to FlexiSpot, and you can too. From August 21st to August 28th, they are having their anniversary sale, and you can get a standing desk for as low as $150. It took me merely 30 minutes to build the one I have now, and I'm very impressed with it. The build quality is insane. There's no wobbling when your desk is raised up super high, and it has a weight capacity of over 400 pounds. So I'm not fearing about my desk falling over or too many things being on top of it. From helping with your posture to improving your blood flow, there's tons of benefits to standing. The list can go on and on forever, but to be completely honest, I love the standing desk for even sitting. I'm always moving in between 30 and 40 inches, and if I want to adjust my camera, I can, and it makes it super easy to do so. I love having the control and able to move this and get me right in frame. And I know that's a really niche use case, but I love this thing and I found many uses for it. FlexiSpot provides all types of ergonomic chairs and standing desks to meet your demands. If you're wanting a standing desk with a T-frame, you can check out their E7 basic frame, which is the one that I have. Or if you're on a budget, you can choose the E2 model, which starts at $150. So if you're looking for a new desk or chair, be sure to use my link below to save $30 off your orders over $500.
On June 29th of 2023, the Supreme Court ruled against affirmative action, finding it unconstitutional to consider race in university admissions. And as stated by Chief Justice John, eliminating racial discrimination means eliminating all of it.
So what does this mean? Universities can't categorize student applications based off race. For example, we need more Black students. They can't do that anymore, which is crazy that they even were to begin with. Instead of looking at a student based purely off their color, you have to rope in their entire story. And yes, their race can play into their story, and that is okay for colleges to consider. Chief Justice John Roberts states, "At the same time, as all parties agree, nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an applicant's discussion on how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise."
From an Asian perspective,
which seems to be a clear shift from the holistic admissions of today that seems to put race at the forefront, and in some situations the determining factor instead of looking at the whole applicant. And as evidenced by the Harvard lawsuit of 2018, particularly Asians have felt the most penalized for their hard work. And I think it's important to make the clear distinctions that me saying that Asians have historically excelled academically isn't making the point that other races aren't as qualified. But what studies are showing is that Asians actually receive penalties in admissions and need to have even higher test scores than white or Hispanic and Black applicants when it comes to having an equal chance in admissions. Because affirmative action's aim is to promote diversity and equal access to opportunities, is creating barriers like that, undermining those aims. And as the largest continent in the world, what constitutes an Asian is extremely diverse. From Chinese, Japanese, Cambodian, Thai, to Vietnamese to Filipino, there are vastly different experiences and backgrounds and even income. Because we often hear Asians as the model minority and has the highest household income than any other racial group. But if we look closer, what we see is a gap. The highest income inequality in the US is amongst Asians and has doubled since 1970 to 2016, replacing Blacks as the most economically divided group. Although Indian Americans, Chinese, Filipinos, and Japanese have contributed towards the upper echelons of median income, groups like Mongolians, Thai, Bhutanese, and Hmong have shown to be one of the poorest ethnic groups in America. Which raises the question, should the focus be on racial classifications on what groups are the most advantaged and disadvantaged, or should the focus be on income? Wouldn't income be the most important and relevant factor when it comes to leveling the playing field and promoting diversity in colleges? Because if we focus on income rather than race, could it address socioeconomic disadvantages more accurately and ensure a fair distribution of opportunities? Because at the end of the day, whether accurate or inaccurate, does anybody like feeling like a token?
From a black perspective, you rob people of the satisfaction of actually obtaining something. I'd feel much better if you picked me for me and not the color of my skin. But with affirmative action in place, you're having people second guess themselves and really thinking, wow, did I really get here because of my merit, or did I get here because I'm black and they needed to reach their quota? Because when we take a look at the admission data from Harvard, it gets pretty alarming. We've got a white kid, an Asian kid, and a black kid all in the same group, equally smart and talented. Of that same group, the black kid has a 56% chance of getting into Harvard, while the white kid has 15% and the Asian kid has 12%. That is bonkers. You can have a white kid from the trailer park have the same test scores as LeBron James' kid, and all of a sudden LeBron James' kid has a higher rate of getting in just because he's black. That's not right. And you know, it's frustrating because there's so much hypocrisy on display. You say America is such a racist country, but then you're upset that colleges aren't allowed to go and say, hey, let me go pick another black person today. Like, it doesn't make sense. How can you claim to be anti-racist but promoting racist behavior? I don't want a handout just because of the color of my skin. People are saying, oh, this is harming the black community. No, we're harming ourselves. Less than 10% of STEM degrees are from black people, and over 85% of our black youth are not proficient in reading and can barely do math. That's not racism's fault. There is something fundamentally wrong with the black culture, and best believe I'm getting into in future videos, so be sure to subscribe. Instead of only promoting and talking about athletes and rappers, maybe we'd actually have some visual representation of black people in the field if we promoted all these different jobs that we can do. Because the behavior of our culture matters way more than people may realize.
And if we're gonna look at it from both sides, is culture talked about enough? Like mentioned, Asians have the highest poverty rate of any minority group in New York City. But the flagship magnet public high school in New York City called Stuyvesant is majority Asian, and half of those Asian students are on free or reduced lunch. And so here's a case of extremely high achieving poor Asian students in one of the best high schools in New York City. And so it's an argument that culture matters. But at the same time, this culture to stay quiet and work hard no matter the circumstance may also be what self-inflicting Asians of being allowed to be discriminated. Because in a country where the squeaky wheel often gets the oil, it's important to acknowledge the role of advocacy in shaping awareness and shaping policies. And unlike Asians, black people have been the ones who historically push for change and not stay silent on issues of representation. Because unfortunately, I've seen this myself. A few years ago, I made a video investigating Harvard's alleged discrimination against Asians in the admission process, and how the video went unfortunately demonstrated exactly why that issue persists. I asked multiple Harvard Asian students that have already graduated and are still in Harvard, but unfortunately none of the Asian students wanted to share their opinions even after initially agreeing to do so. But while we can appreciate the representation of different races, like look at this damn video, this is like an intellectual version of Rush Hour.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
But should this sole focus on the color of her skin be the defining factor of an individual?
Exactly. Just because I'm black doesn't mean I think like and agree with everyone else. My melanin does not define my mindset. These universities are obsessed with linking diversity to ethnicity instead of diversity with thought process. Just because we have a campus that's 50% white, 20% black, 20% Asian, and 10% Hispanic doesn't mean you have a diverse campus. You've got a potluck of different races, but that doesn't mean you have a potluck of different ideas. I'd much rather a university look at a student's entire application than to just look at their race checkbox. And some people say, well, what about legacy admissions? If legacy admissions are a thing, then affirmative action needs to be a thing. And personally, I don't think so. I'm fine with legacy admissions only up to a certain extent. For those unaware, legacy admissions is a preference given to students who have some type of family or tie to the university itself. According to a recent study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, around 30% or so of Harvard students were let in through legacy admission. The study also states that a lot of these students wouldn't have gotten into Harvard if it wasn't for the legacy admissions, meaning if they just applied like everybody else did, they probably wouldn't have gotten in. This finding does shed light on these certain advantages some students have by knowing certain people and getting in through legacy admissions, but this process is normal. This is everywhere across the board. Your net worth is your network. Legacy admissions remind me a lot about nepotism, which is the process of giving a job to a close friend or family, but why are we acting like this doesn't exist? Like this is a normal thing in the business world. It's all about connections and who you know. Yes, in a country full of 75% white people, you're gonna have a lot of white people that are benefiting from legacy admissions and nepotism, but damn, black people do it too, and we're not gonna act like we don't. We have Dwayne Wade's child, Zaya Wade, a 16-year-old famous international model and trans activist. You have Steve Harvey's child, Lori Harvey, famous international model. And then you have Beyonce and Jay-Z's daughter, Blue Ivy Carter, a Grammy award-winning child. This idea that legacy admissions and nepotism only benefits white people is flawed. Black people do it too all the time, and I'm here for it. If you have the connections to put your family on, then do it. You work hard, you want to provide for your family, you know this person, they can get you in here, plug them in. Like, that's how the world works right now. And to me personally, I think it's up to that person who got plugged in. Now it's up to them, and now it's their responsibility to prove themselves. Referring back to Harvard and the white students that were let in through legacy admissions, it's up to that student now to not be on academic probation and to actually put in the work that the other students have to that were let in the normal process. Ultimately, times have changed, and as a black man, I'm not gonna sit here and act like affirmative action never was beneficial to this country. It was, especially right after the Jim Crow era. I understand the initiative of putting different races into these positions and forcing it to happen. I understand it, but it's 2023. There's nothing that I cannot do. I am my ancestors' dream now. I'm good, I have nothing to fear, and I can work hard and achieve anything I want to in this country. Additionally, it's worth noting that the landscape of applying for jobs is changing. With companies like IBM, Dell, and Google, they're no longer requiring college degrees to get in for a job. More and more, these companies are paying attention to, hey, can you do the job? It's all they care about. Forget if you have a degree, do you know what you're doing? That's what matters most in these companies and in this world. Can you actually prove yourself and apply yourself? And if you can, cool, you're gonna succeed. But if you have all these degrees and accolades, but you don't know how to do a damn thing, that's fraudulent. You're being found out, and you're not gonna win anymore. You have to put in the work. You have to actually do the things you need to be doing. And that's exactly what should be done and how we should be looking at this process. People should be looked at for their merit, not the color of their skin. Because systemic racism is systemic racism no matter who it targets. We should be judging someone based off the content of the character, not the color of their skin. I'm thankful that the times are changing, and although change can be uncomfortable, it's not always a bad thing. I'm sure that without affirmative action, in addition to cultural changes with some different races, we're going to see that intellectual diversity that people are craving for. Because that's the diversity that matters, not the diversity of different skin colors. Thank you again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring today's video, and I hope that you all are having a great day, understanding that nothing's going to change your life but you, so do what you need to do to put your best self forward. And again, I can't believe we're still on our way to 100K. We're at 95 right now, which is insane. So thank you for the support, watching my videos, sharing my content. It means the world to me. And if you're looking to make more friends or hang around a like-minded community, be sure to head over to amirodom.com. That's where you can gain access to my private Discord channel where we're all chatting, hanging out, and doing fun giveaways, live streams, playing games. The list goes on. It's a great time over there. So again, thank you all for all the love and support, and I will see you in the next video. Deuces.